Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains, and welcome to this update where we have so much to talk about. Everything from info boards to cars to mistakes I made while laying the track. We're going to talk about a car float. We're going to talk about a 35-foot car float. We're going to talk about future plans and about frog juicers and little toggle switches. So let's get started, and let's first start with these whiteboards. I'm just going to zoom out to show you how big these guys are, because actually they're quite big. And these are full of information that we need to operate the layout. And why have one if you can have three? So there's another one over here. And I'm actually going to make a separate video on this just to explain a little bit more the layout itself in detail and a little bit of the information that we're showing on the whiteboards. So let's go down to track level first. As you saw in my last video, we are running some trains, and I actually just don't have enough cars. So I got all the cars out of the packs. Some of them are not really fitting for the era, but that's fine for now. I don't have any beer reefers, despite the beer brewery being the largest industry on the layout. So I'm substituting one, two of these cars, the non-dairy cars, for beer reefers for now. I do have a plan to have a small fleet of 12 beer reefers coming in, but more on that later. This whole string of cars, and these, I got them, I've just been collecting them over time, but they are on the RIP track because they do need to be looked after. Not this one. This one rolls very nice, but these, for example, this just doesn't roll at all. I bought it for the loads, to be honest, but the flat cars are quite nice and they have plastic wheels, so something tells me that they don't originally have plastic wheels and someone scalped them off there, the good wheels, and put plastic ones on there. Anyway, it was a good deal and I bought it for the loads. Still need a little bit of touch up on the weathering. Talking about weathering, this car came pre-weathered. That's not really how I would do it, but we can fix that, no worries. This car is as light as I don't know what, so it derails super quickly. That one needs more weight. This one is missing some brake wheels. Can't have safe operations without brake wheels. So, and I'm thinking actually to put a tarp over this. Wouldn't that be great? Just to have the outline shape of this, I think it's a genset, under a tarp. I think that would look great. So anyways, cars, I got another 12 box cars coming in just to fill up the fleet a bit, because I'm missing about 40 to 50 cars to really do the operations as intended. That's what I'm working on the sidelines. Now, as we're walking here, I almost missed it. Because we didn't talk about the track yet. I finished the track, and I've been testing the track, and for that, I found out it's easy just to use a tender. So this is a tender of an engine with sound, and I just took the engine off because I didn't really need the engine. I just wanted to test if there was power on a section of track. And so I would just put this tender on the track, just like that, and just move it over, just like that. Because the area I wanted to test predominantly is this section right here for turnouts. This is frog, so it's not going to be powered, but this section has to be powered very well. And all the other track, of course, but the track is generally not an issue. Somehow these turnouts were a bit more finicky. So I would just put it there, and then if the sound would turn on by itself, then it has power. But if you move it along and it doesn't have power there, then it means there's probably something bad connection or something like that. So anyways, I had one or two bad connections, so I had to get this guy out. But nothing too serious right there. Now, the car float. You guys have spoken, and I have trimmed the car float. This is all that's left. This is what you guys wanted. From the entire float, this is that's left. And it just fits about a 32-foot flat car. So, that's nice. But of course I'm joking. This is the section that I was supposed to trim out. So that's what I did. I trimmed that out. And the rest of the float, you guys already saw, this is the float as I'm working on it right now. It's not really a difficult build. It's just big. Of course I didn't do the track yet, so maybe I'll come back and eat my words later. That's going to be very difficult. I'm going to make a separate video, because quite a few people have requested that, on how to make this float and probably the matching apron as well. But do note the video is not going to be about me reading the instructions and doing what it says in the instructions. No, it's going to be more about, I guess, the painting and maybe some tips and tricks how to lay the track on it, because it comes with plastic track, but obviously we're going to use real track. So yeah, paint is mostly going to be about paint. So you're probably seeing some b-roll right now of the color scheme. I'm thinking to paint it with a gray base coat and then obviously totally rust it out. Let me know in the comments down below if you maybe have a better paint scheme or something else in mind, and I'll see, yeah, maybe we can go that way. I just didn't want to paint it as it is on the box because it's just a bit boring, right? So again, this is the section. I promised 4 sections, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the section that I cut out. How to do that exactly, I'll show that in the video on the car float build. After the float, I'm going to do the trestle right there. I mean, this float's going to be done probably in a day, all the gluing, and then I'm going to paint it. And this trestle, so I'll finish float this week, the trestle next week. I made this little schematic for the double slip crossover because it is a bit of a mind twister. Which of the two, because we have 2 throw bars. We have this one right here, 1, 2, and that one right there, 1, 2, and in which direction to set them to go where. And the straight ones are actually quite logic, but if you want to go around the curve, then this gets a bit illogic. I mean, I got my head around it, but we got other people coming in operating the layout, so I do need a little cheat sheet there for those folks. Now, in the previous video, I talked about using these micro switches to switch the polarity of the frogs. But if we just dive underneath the layout, then we see here I installed already one of several frog juicers. I pre-wired them, then hung them underneath the layout, and then just had to plug in all those separate wires. It's attached to the main bus, so nothing too spectacular. We fly over here. Got another one right here. I mean, it's all exactly the same, so nothing too special. I do have some great news regarding frog juicers, that I found a competitive product, which is always great because we don't want to be dependent on one supplier. And we'll talk about that when I get it, because I ordered it but don't have it yet. So I'm really excited to give that a whirl. Now, why did I ditch the micro switches? Well, basically, those switches I bought for about 50 bucks. They're not going to work. And I found out I have almost enough frog juicers. I only need to buy 1 or 2 more. So I can do one of 2 things. I can keep digging the hole with these small switches in an effort to try to find the right one. Or I can just go the safe route and just take the pain all at once and buy 2 more of these frog juicers, which are not cheap, but hey, they work, and they work really well. So on to some mistakes I made, and I made 2 mistakes. And they're actually quite similar, but in opposite direction. So who can spot the mistake here? And it's really easy. Normally when you have a turnout, you isolate the frog, so you put isolators right there. That's good. And I did the same over here. That's good. But how are we going to get power on this middle section of track? Well, we don't. So what I'm basically going to do, I'm just going to change this one, this isolated rail joiner for a normal rail joiner, and this will just basically become a part of the frog, which will work out fine. It's not that you're going to have one engine right here and another engine go over this point, because then you will have an issue. But no, engines have to keep a little bit more space. So that's what I'm going to do there. And how am I going to do that? Well, that brings us, we just fly over here to the other mistake I made. So I move these cars, and that is right here. Here you need 2 rail joiners, and I didn't have a rail joiner. So there I have 1 too many, and here I had 1 too few. So what I do, I cut the track right here, then I remove this piece of track, just wiggle it out, just like that. That's why I took out quite a few of these spikes as well. So you can just bend this track to miss the other one, and just, yeah, bend it out. And then I replaced this with an insulator, and then I put a rail joiner here, and I shoved it all the way onto this track. Then I cut the same piece of track back, I slid it in through the spikes, popped it into the isolating rail joiner, then slid this rail joiner over the track as it is now, and you can hardly see it. You can honestly, and it works fine. Yeah, so no one has to know about that mistake. Don't tell anyone. So I'm basically going to do the same maneuver here on the left. And that's the update for today. If you want to see how I fit the entire Los Angeles on a 4x8 piece of plywood in HO scale, check out the video that you see on screen right now for what I think is a great layout design that I made for a client of mine. Thank you all for watching. That's it for today. Bye bye. This video was made possible by ABR Model Works, providing kits and accessories for all model railroaders. Looking to support the model railroading community? Check out the Dubai Trains Patreon page